Hello everyone, my name is Ruxana Begum. The objective of this presentation is to identify one of the most important sustainability issues faced by Apple Inc. In terms of the ethical sourcing of mineral in the global supply chain of the company, Apple is one of the biggest and most powerful technology companies in the world. Apple is producing many electronic devices. For example, there is iPhone, there is Mac, iPad, and etc. Apple has a high level of commitment towards sustainability. However, the company has also faced many challenges in the supply chain. The objective of this presentation is to identify one of the most important sustainability issues faced by Apple. In terms of the ethical sourcing of mineral in the global supply chain of the company with the help of various models of leadership and strategy. Apple has a very globalized and globalizing supply chain with thousands of suppliers located all over the world, including Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Although the company has managed to carve a name for itself in the field of environmental sustainability, particularly in the objective of becoming carbon neutral by the year 2030, there are still numerous challenges facing the company in the field of ethical sourcing of the materials for the company's products. Most of the materials required for the manufacture of electronic gadgets are obtained from countries that are not well governed and where the state of labor is not the most desirable. Apple has a very complex supply chain. The organization has thousands of different suppliers at various tiers. Even though the organization may have direct relationship with first tier suppliers, the materials may have originated from further down the supply chain. Materials like the use of cobalt in the lithium batteries, the use of lithium, and the use of rare earth minerals in the electronic devices are materials used by the organization. The fact that the mining of the rare earth minerals take place in different locations in the world makes it difficult for the organization to have full visibility of the supply chain. The complicity of the supply chain makes it difficult to ensure that the regulations are at the required level. One of the most popular issues concerning sustainable businesses involves the problem of cobalt mining the Democratic Republic of Congo. Various reports from different organizations, such as Amnesty International, have highlighted the problem of child labor and poor working conditions in artisanal mining activities. The other problem associated with the mining of minerals is the environmental impact that results from mining activities. The mining of lithium in South America has led to the depletion of water resources, while the mining of rare earth minerals has led to the creation of toxic waste. There are some of the reputational issues that Apple Inc. faces concerning the use of these materials in their products. So in this slide, we will be talking about stakeholder impact. So there are various stakeholder groups that are affected by supply chain sustainability. The consumers are increasingly turning towards technology companies that provide products in an ethical way. Another stakeholder is the investor who is now focusing on environmental, social, and governance criteria while making investments. The local community is affected if they reside in a place that has mining activities that are not sustainable. The government is implementing regulation that will ensure that companies have become transparent in the way they operate. Apple has adapted different strategies to improve its supply chain governance. Apple publishes an annual report named Supplier Responsibility Report. Also, Apple requires its suppliers to respect its suppliers' code of conduct. Apple regularly audits its suppliers to ensure that its suppliers respect its labor and environmental codes. However, it has been found in different academic studies that this audit-based model may not be effective in dealing with labor issues. Poverty, informal mining, and governance require structural interventions. So here we will be discussing about the hierarchical frameworks, the triple bottom line, stakeholder theory, virtue versus utility debate, and systems thinking. There are various theories that can be used in analyzing the sustainability challenges. They include, as I mentioned before, triple bottom line, which this theory revolves around the balance between economic, social, and environmental aspects. So, whereas for the stakeholder theory, this theory it revolves around the responsibility of organization to various stakeholders. Now, if we move on to virtue versus utility, this theory revolves around the decision of organization to pursue virtues or utility. And then finally, we have system thinking. This theory revolves around the fact that chains function as a system. Strategic leadership analysis. Strong climate leadership, growing expectation for social responsibility, need for deeper supply chain engagement. These are the three key points we'll be going through. Apple has demonstrated its leadership in the use of renewable energy and reducing carbon emission. Leadership in sustainability must go beyond environmental issues. Rather, it must include social issues such as labor rights. Transparency and cooperation between the company and stakeholders and investing in the supply chain are key issues in leadership in the fields. So, strategic recommendations. There are various strategic steps that could help Apple's strategy. For example, the use of traceability technology, such as blockchain, could help Apple monitor the sourcing of minerals. Another example is the use of supplier development program that could help Apple suppliers improve their labor practices and wages. A further example is the use of partnerships with local communities that are affected by mining activities. And another example is the established of governance structures within the boards that are focused on human rights. So in this slide, we'll be discussing the implementations and KPIs. However, it is imperative to note that for this to be effective, there must be specific indicators of performance. This may include the percentages of minerals that can be traced back to the source of mine, the number of suppliers that have met the labor standards, as well as the reduction in labor violations that have been reported. This may be done by reporting in a sustainability report. So, inclusion, one may say that the issue of sustainability in the supply chain in regard to the Apple Corporation is quite multi-faced in nature. In order to solve it, the joint efforts of government, suppliers, local communities, and the company itself will have to be undertaken. The next important point to consider, however, is that the current problem opens up many opportunities for the Apple Corporation. In other words, in case the company chooses to become an initiator and a pioneer of responsible corporate activities, sustainable practices within the supply chain and other processes, its reputation may be significantly improved in the international market. In particular, to achieve the outlined goals, the firm needs to invest in innovations, related to the introduction of tracking and tracing technologies based on the blockchain in order to ensure that the fact that the raw materials used was extracted ethically. Another option available is that of cooperation with mining companies which work in accordance with the principle of ethics. More specifically, some communities development projects may be developed by cooperation, um, as well as NGO auditors, and independent auditors may be used to verify all the information. So that describes issues to provide a great opportunity. And these are all the references that I have gathered from the internet to help me provide all the information that is presented in the presentation today. And finally, thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and it was very informative. Thank you.